Welcome to Inside Scoop Live, the podcast where indie authors get personal, sharing insights about their books, their writing journeys, and their passions. I'm your host, Sherry Hoyt, and I invite you to join me for engaging conversations with both debut indie authors and seasoned veterans. Whether you're looking for your next great read or a bit of inspiration, you've come to the right place. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Josie L. Smith joins the show today to talk about her new book, Debris, a memoir of love, grief, and courage. It's a raw, heartfelt story of losing her husband in Australia's 2019 Black Summer bushfires and finding a way forward for herself and her daughter when grief feels impossible to carry. Before we get started, here's the inside scoop on the author. Josie L. Smith is an author, visual artist, mother, and a public servant whose work spans memoir, community service, and creative expression. Her debut memoir traces her powerful journey through love, devastating loss, and the long, courageous work of rebuilding. In her book, Josie narrated her life with her husband John and their daughter Ems, the tragic loss of her husband, and the emotional aftermath of navigating grief while raising their daughter alone. With honesty, courage, and deep vulnerability, she explores what it truly means to survive, heal, and find strength in the ruins. Alongside her writing, Josie is an exhibiting artist whose work centers on cathartic process, resilience, and the emotional landscapes left behind by trauma. Her exhibition, Catharsis, Embers of Resilience, brought her paintings and her husband John's sculptures together as an artistic extension of the themes that shape her life and her memoir. Beyond her creative practice, Josie works in the Department of Communities and Justice in New South Wales, Australia, supporting children and families through trauma-informed, community-centered practice. Josie uses her voice, in writing, in her art, and in her community work to inspire others to face their own storms with courage and resilience. You can learn more about Josie on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Hi, Josie. Welcome to Inside Scoop Live.
Hi, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here and for sharing your story with us. Debris is such a deeply personal book. Tell us what it's about and what moved you to actually write the story.
Debris is about my life with my husband, John, from the moment we started communicating online until our last conversation on a phone call, then about the unbearable pain of grieving when we lost him in the Black Summer bushfires in Australia. Although the book narrates the emotional toll and the mental health struggles from the trauma that my daughter and I had experienced, it also tells a story of survival about a struggling single mother of a grieving child trying to get back on her feet to function as a parent so life would be back to normal. So, Debris is a story about a beautiful family life that was shattered by the Black Summer bushfires. And the fires didn't only left physical debris, but also emotional ruins. And in this book, I show that through courage, I built something new from those ruins. It's my personal growth, my academic achievement, my arts, my writings, and most importantly, being a mother who knows how to listen, feel, and understand my daughter's needs. And that's what moved me to share my story to the world, hoping that I can inspire other people to find their courage to be resilient.
I love that you focus on kind of getting back to normal, if there's such a thing even. What does Debris represent for you after losing your husband, John, in the Black Summer bushfires?
Yeah, Debris is about the fragments of the life John and I built together, but it also represents the emotional aftermath, the grief, the trauma, single parenthood, and Debris is also become a symbol of my resilience. I acknowledge the event, the devastation, the ruins, the pain, but I kept on going.
Yeah, yeah. And the artwork, the cover of the artwork too, it's just absolutely beautiful and represents the title so well. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my artwork as well. That's my painting. That's one of my paintings. And it's actually a photo of our favorite tree in the property that we lost, where John also died.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
So
beautiful.
thank
Um,
you.
when you think about John now, what stands out most about who he was in your life, in your lives, the lives of you and your daughter?
Well, it was his steadiness. He's very calm person, so his grounding presence in our lives. He was someone who made everybody feel safe just by being there. He was a very loving, gentle, loyal, and deeply devoted to our little family. And most of all, he had full of wisdom. I learned a lot from him, and those lessons helped me piece myself back together when I was broken.
Hmm. What do you remember most vividly about the days surrounding the bushfires? And when did that shock kind of begin to give way to reality? This actually happened.
Yeah, that day, that was a very chaotic day. So, yeah, I could remember the chaos. I remembered the smell of the smoke everywhere, and the sky was in a wrong color. It was
Mm,
gray at first, then orange, then it became red, then it went into darkness.
mm,
And the heat, it was scorching. It was like you were in an oven. Yeah, it was terrible. And shock held me for a long time. At first, it was just moving through tasks. I did phone calls, decision making, trying to keep my daughter safe. And I think the shock began to give way when the adrenaline faded.
right.
And I still didn't hear from John then. And then when I saw the devastation after the fires, and I was still waiting for any information about him, I think that was the time when the painful reality hit. And even then, I was still hoping that it was just a bad dream
Yeah.
because the reality was just too much to bear.
Yeah. I can't even begin to imagine. And you're right, that shock and that adrenaline, it does protect us. That's our body's way of helping us
Yeah.
deal with these things before we're ready to, and not that we're ever ready for something like that, but it does help protect us, at least in the beginning.
Mm.
In the weeks and months like after the fire, what did the emotional aftermath really look like? And when did you sort of realize that you needed support, beyond your own strength?
It was very chaotic and unpredictable. Some days I could function, get my daughter to school and pick her up and do paperworks, make decisions because I needed to. Other
Hmm.
days I felt like I was moving through a thick fog, doing things on autopilot. And there were moments when the grief hit like a punch. It was too painful. And then there were times that I felt numb. And for almost a year, I cried every night.
Mm.
And when the moment I woke up, that was the reality of John not coming home. That felt unbearable. So I think I needed support when I realized that my pain and my fear affected how I functioned as a mother. I could feel the strain in my relationship with my daughter. So then I realized that she didn't only lose her father then, but also slowly losing me as well.
Oh, wow.
And I had to fix that. So I went into psychotherapy. I was in a psychotherapy for almost 2 years. I grew up in the Philippines and I grew up with a very supportive family and relatives. But it was only me and my daughter in Australia, so it was very hard. But I'm very lucky that I have a lot of supportive friends and the community as well. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, you had to carry on for your daughter's sake.
sure.
I imagine you've had many conversations with your daughter, Ems. What were some of the most meaningful or difficult conversations the two of you shared? as you both tried to make sense of what happened?
Yeah, there's lots of conversations that were very difficult. But I remember one time when we were having dinner, and my daughter said, Mom, what if Daddy will knock on the door and come in?
Mm,
Because we didn't see his body anyway. So that's when I realized that she was still in denial and probably hoping that what happened was not real. And I didn't even remember how I responded to that, but I can
yeah.
remember how difficult that conversation was. And one of the most meaningful conversation we had was when we talk about John, of how amazing he was. And one time when my daughter saw me crying, she said, Mom, don't worry too much. Even if we only had a daddy for a short time, we're still lucky to have him because he was a good man. And that's John's legacy in Ems. A very
Oh,
wise person.
oh, wow. That is very
Yeah,
powerful. Oh my
I'm
goodness. And
very
how old
proud of
was
her.
she?
She was 10 then.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm so proud of her.
yeah. Wow. Was there a balance to honoring John's memory yourself while also giving Ems her own space to process his absence? What did that look like?
Well, balancing honoring John's memory while giving Ems space to process was something I had to feel my way through.
Mm,
I wanted her to know about how amazing her dad was and how much he loved us, but I also didn't want to overwhelm her with my own grief. So some days she needed stories and reassurance, other days she needed her space, and I respected that. And yeah, that's how it worked. And I learned how to follow her lead, keeping John present in gentle, everyday ways while giving her room, asked questions to feel what she felt and to come to her own understanding in her own time.
mm, yeah. How long before you started doing familiar things again? And when you started, like traveling and gardening and studying, and you did a lot of family things together, when you and Em started doing that again, was there something that shifted?
Yeah, well, doing those everyday activities helped me reconnect with parts of myself I thought the grief and trauma had taken.
Mm,
And slowly, they made space for a different kind of life to begin taking shape. So I needed to heal to become a mother who is present, and studying gave me insights into how to understand my emotions and how to respond to my daughter's emotional needs. And traveling also allow us to experience different events together, which made us closer. And gardening was a very therapeutic thing for me.
hmm. Are there ways today in which you still experience John's presence in your daily life?
Yeah, and I still feel John's presence in small ways in everyday life. It's in the routines we build together and the decisions make as a parent. And looking at my daughter, she always reminds me of how grateful I am to John for giving me such a beautiful human being.
Mm,
And I can feel his presence and in events that surface at the exact moment I need it. Like when I was doing my art exhibition, it's titled Catharsis Embers of Resilience. It's like a visual representation of my book.
hmm.
And when I made the poster, I realized the relevance of the date of the exhibition. It was from December 31 to January 26. And January 26 was when John was born, and December 31 was the date of his passing.
Oh,
So I
wow.
knew then how proud, I knew how proud he would have been for me to exhibit my arts. And he let me feel his presence and that pride in those relevant dates of his life and death. Wasn't amazing? Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mm.
You do a lot of things that are very cathartic and healing. I mean, writing and art are two beautiful ways to express your emotions. What was the emotional cost or benefits of putting your story on paper?
Well, it got a lot of emotional toll on it. I had to reopen memories I spent months and years trying to survive,
Hmm.
and writing them down made everything real and painful again. So there were days that I had to stop writing or editing because the weight of it was too much. And nearly left out some of the most painful moments, especially the ones that I exposed how lost and broken I felt. But in the end, I kept them because leaving them out would meant telling only half truth, and putting everything there for people to read. I think it will also one of expressing myself and helping them realize that there's hope in every struggles.
Yeah, yeah. Difficult to do, I'm sure, but authenticity, you talked about the authenticity, you told your whole story, and that in turn is going to help other people. And I'm sure that was one of your objectives.
Yeah, actually, this is one of my purposes as well for helping out for those people who need help because I'm also being a mental health advocate. And one of the purpose of this book is I would like to donate the a portion of my online sales of this book to the volunteer firefighters of Victoria because during the summertime they also have a very big bushfire there. So yeah, I would like to help the firefighters.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
What kind of response have you had to your book from your community and other people so far?
Yeah, I've got a really good feedback from the readers because it was published in December. So it didn't reach to a lot of readers yet, but from the people who read the books, I've got a really good feedback from them, and they said that it's very emotional, but it's also inspiring. So one of the things that they said that you really need tissues when you read this book, but it's also very inspiring at the end.
Yeah,
And there's lots of humor as well from at the very start.
yeah. So it's a nice balance.
It's a nice balance. Yeah, I think so. It's like a very light beginning and then very like emotional in the middle and then very inspiring at the end.
Has your daughter read your book, and what does she think about it?
Yes, she's the first one that I like read my book when I was just doing my manuscript because it's about us. I put her name there as well, and I respect her opinion and what she wants me to write there about her. So she could delete it if she doesn't like me to put it there.
Mm.
Yeah, so she liked it. Yeah, she only delete one sentence there, so that's good.
Oh, wow. Good job, Mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. After everything you've walked through, and when you look ahead now, is there anything that feels possible that once just felt completely out of reach for you?
Well, after everything I walked through, looking ahead now feels different. What feels possible is a life that isn't defined only by loss. I can imagine joy without guilt, plans that aren't built around fear, because I was very fearful before. I didn't want to do this because I was scared, and especially after the bushfire and there was a COVID. So that's when I
Mm,
was getting paranoid. So like I'm not fearful anymore. And then a brighter future for Ems and me. And it's not about moving on. It's more that I finally feel that there's space for new things to grow alongside the grief and trauma.
well said.
Yes.
Josie, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. Debris is such a powerful tribute to love, and I'm grateful to have had the honor of having this conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, and thanks for this chance to share about my book, Debray. It's Debray, a memoir of love, grief, and courage.
Thank you so much for joining me today for my interview with Josie L. Smith, author of Debris, a memoir of love, grief, and courage. You can learn more about Josie and connect with her on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And be sure to check out our other interviews on InsideScoopLive.com.